June 6th, 1944, 4:31 in the morning, off the coast of Normandy, France. The sky is the color of wet steel. Low clouds hang over a restless sea. The English Channel rolls in long gray swells, slapping against plywood hulls that creak and shudder under the weight of men and gear. Inside one of those boats, 32 soldiers stand shoulder to shoulder. Their boots slide slightly on the damp wooden deck. Rifles are clutched tight, helmets knocked together with every wave. The boat is simple, flat-bottomed, blunt at the front. The paint is chipped. The metal ramp ahead of them rattles with each impact of water. This is a Higgins boat, seaman first class. Daniel Ruiz grips the wheel at the stern. He is 21 years old. His jaws tight, eyes fixed ahead through salt spray. He can barely see the shoreline, only flashes of orange and white where naval shells burst in the distance. Beside him, engine man Charles Moore leans over the diesel, listening to its rhythm. The engine growls, steady but strained. Moore taps the casing as if calming a nervous horse. Up front, Corporal Tommy Keller of the 1st Infantry Division stands closest to the ramp. He can feel the vibration of the engine through the soles of his boots. His heart pounds so loudly he wonders if the others can hear it. A voice cuts through the roar of water. 30 seconds! It comes from Ruiz. He does not shout again. He does not need to. You can almost feel the weight inside that narrow hull. Not just equipment, not just rifles and ammunition, but expectation. Months of planning, years of war, the hope of turning the tide. Ahead, machine gun fire begins to stitch across the water. Thin white lines snap and vanish. Some rounds slap against the sides of nearby boats. One landing craft to the left jerks suddenly. A man goes down. The boat keeps moving. These boats were once dismissed as crude, too basic, too exposed. They looked nothing like the proud battleships anchored offshore. They were carpentry and sheet metal, not steel giants with towering guns. But on this morning, there are thousands of them. At H hour, 6:30 a.m., the ramps will drop across 5 beaches: Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juneau, and Sword. The largest amphibious invasion in history will begin not with battleships crashing into sand, but with small boats nudging forward, one after another. Ruiz pushes the throttle. The Higgins boat rises slightly over a swell, then slams down. Water sprays over the bow. Keller tastes salt on his lips. He thinks of home, of a hardware store in Ohio, of his mother folding laundry in a quiet kitchen. He forces the thought away. There is only the ramp now. 10 seconds. The shoreline is clearer. Dark shapes, concrete obstacles, smoke drifting low over the beach. The boat grinds against sand. The engine revs once, then idles. Ruiz reaches for the lever. For a heartbeat, everything seems to pause. Even the sea holds its breath. Then the metal ramp drops with a hard clang. Light floods in, so does gunfire. Keller steps forward into cold water, up to his chest. The shock steals his breath. Around him, men move, stumble, push through surf toward the beach. Behind them, the Higgins boat backs away, its ramp rising again, ready to return for another load. This scene will repeat thousands of times that morning. And yet, only a few years earlier, many had laughed at the very idea of this boat. They said it looked like a swamp skiff, like something meant for shallow rivers, not oceans under fire. They doubted its flat bottom. They questioned its thin sides. They did not see what was coming. Long before Normandy, far from European shores, a stubborn boat builder in Louisiana was testing designs in muddy bayous. He believed soldiers needed a craft that could run straight onto a beach, drop a ramp, and get out fast. No climbing over rails, no wasted seconds. He believed simplicity could win time. On the morning of D-Day, time would mean everything. As Keller struggles toward the sand, Ruiz swings the boat around. Another wave hits. Another order crackles over the radio. More boats line up behind him, stretching back toward the horizon. If you stood on a cliff above that beach, you would see not elegance, not grandeur, but repetition. Small shapes moving forward, ramps falling, men stepping into history. The Higgins boat does not roar like a battleship. It does not command the sky like a carrier. It simply delivers. And on this gray morning, delivery is the difference between hope and failure. Behind the smoke and thunder of naval guns, behind the headlines and famous speeches, it is these flat-bottomed craft that form the thin wooden bridge between England and France, one trip at a time. As the sun begins to rise over Normandy, the sea is crowded with them. Thousands of hulls rocking in the swell, thousands of engines humming, thousands of ramps ready to fall. The world will remember the beaches, but the story begins in the boats. New Orleans, Louisiana, August 1938. Late afternoon heat presses down like a heavy hand. The air smells of river water and cut pine. Cicadas buzz in the trees beyond the yard. In a low wooden workshop near the industrial canal, a boat hull sits tilted on blocks. It is not polished, not elegant. Its lines are blunt, almost stubborn. Andrew Jackson Higgins wipes sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief already soaked through. He studies the hull the way a gambler studies a hand of cards. He is not a naval officer, not a man of medals or uniforms. He is a businessman with sharp eyes and a quicker temper. His boots are dusty, his sleeves rolled high. Around him, carpenters hammer planks into place. Sawdust floats in shafts of late sun, and the hull is wide at the front, the bottom nearly flat. Too ugly, one visitor mutters. The visitor is a Navy officer from Washington, sent to observe Higgins's latest design. He circles the boat, slowly, arms crossed. "You expect this to land on a beach?" he asks. Higgins does not smile. "I expect it to get there," he replies, "and get out." He has been building boats for the swamps and marshes of Louisiana for years. Oil companies use them, trappers rely on them. They skim over shallow water, slide across mud, and keep moving where deeper vessels would run aground. That is the point. Europe is already on edge in 1938. Tension grows overseas. The United States watches from a distance, officially neutral. But some officers are thinking ahead. They know one truth. If American troops ever need to land on hostile shores, current equipment will fail them. The Navy's existing landing craft require men to climb over the sides. That takes time. It exposes them. It turns every landing into a scramble. Higgins believes there is a better way. He runs his hand along the bow. "It needs a ramp," he says. The officer raises an eyebrow. "A door at the front. Drop it. Men go straight out." The idea sounds simple, almost obvious, yet the Navy has not embraced it. Months later, Higgins tests a modified design in Lake Pontchartrain. The boat surges forward, engine roaring. It hits a sandbar at speed. Instead of stopping dead, it rides up. The front settles just enough. A metal ramp slams down. Workers rush forward across it. No climbing, no delay. Watching from shore, a group of Marines exchange glances. One of them, Captain Victor Krulak, sees something others miss. He imagines beaches far from Louisiana. He imagines gunfire. He sees possibility. Krulak pushes for more tests. He brings the idea up the chain of command. Slowly, resistance softens. By 1941, as war spreads across Europe and Asia, the United States can no longer pretend distance equals safety. After December 7th, 1941, the nation is at war. Production shifts overnight. Higgins's yard explodes with activity. What was once a modest operation becomes a storm of labor and noise. Women and men pour into the factory. Welding torches spark against steel. Wooden hulls line up in rows like unfinished thoughts. The boat evolves. It becomes the landing craft, vehicle, personnel. LCVP, 36 feet long. Capable of carrying about 36 soldiers or a jeep. A shallow draft that allows it to run close to shore. Its sides are not thick armor. Its shape is not graceful. But it can do something that matters. It can put men exactly where they need to be. In Washington, some still question the design. Too exposed, they say, too vulnerable. Higgins does not pretend it is invincible. "It is a truck," he tells a skeptical official. "A water truck. It gets cargo delivered." He understands his role. He is not building a hero. He is building a bridge. Back in Normandy, June 1944, that bridge stretches across miles of water. As Ruiz steers his craft away from Omaha Beach after the first drop, he glances back. The shoreline is chaos. Smoke curls upward. Naval shells whistle overhead. Another Higgins boat surges past him, bow low, ramp trembling. Inside it, a young lieutenant named Harold Green grips the rail. This is his first combat. He had trained in England for months, practicing landings on quiet beaches. They had run drills over and over, ramps dropping onto empty sand. Now the sand ahead is anything but empty. Green swallows hard. He has heard men joke about these boats. Floating coffins, some called them during training, too thin, too small. Yet here they are, moving forward anyway. If the ramps did not exist, his men would have to climb over the sides under fire. Precious seconds would vanish. Order would collapse into confusion. Instead, they will run straight ahead. The simplicity Higgins argued for in a hot Louisiana yard now faces its greatest test. In the factory back home, workers have built more than 20,000 of these craft. The pace is relentless. Shifts run day and night. Rivets hammered. Engines installed. Paint slapped on in thick coats of gray. Some workers have sons already overseas. They know where these boats are going. On D-Day alone, more than 1,000 Higgins boats will carry soldiers toward Normandy's beaches. 1,000 simple hulls. 1,000 metal ramps. The officer, who once doubted the design, now reads reports from Europe. He sees photographs of rows of landing craft lined up like stepping stones across the channel. He cannot deny what stands before him. Back in the surf, Green's boat slams against the sand. The engine revs. The ramp drops. History moves forward on a flat bottom and a hinge. Omaha Beach, June 6, 1944, 6:35 in the morning. The tide is coming in. Cold water turns brown with sand and smoke. The first wave has already hit. Some boats made it cleanly to shore. Others drift damaged, their crews scrambling to regain control. Seaman Daniel Ruiz wipes seawater from his eyes. His Higgins boat bucks hard as a nearby explosion sends a column of spray into the air. For a split second, he loses sight of the horizon. "Hold her steady," Moore mutters from the engine compartment. Ruiz nods. He lines up for another run. Behind him, 30 fresh soldiers crouch low. Among them is Private First Class Leonard Lenny Brooks from Kansas. He is 19. His hands shake, though he tries to hide it by adjusting the strap of his pack. Brooks had seen the boats in England and thought they looked flimsy. He had tapped the wooden side once and joked with a friend that it felt like a fishing boat. Now he presses his shoulder against that same wood as bullets strike the water outside. The coxswain shouts, 2 minutes! Ahead, the beach is a blur of obstacles. Steel hedgehogs jut from the surf. Wooden stakes lean at sharp angles. Smoke drifts low, mixing with sea mist. The sound is constant, naval guns booming from offshore, machine guns rattling from bunkers, men shouting over the roar. Yet through all of it, the Higgins boats keep coming. They form lines, they adjust, they weave around wreckage. One craft drifts sideways, engine dead. Its crew jumps out, waist deep in water, pushing it free so the next boat can pass. There is no room for hesitation. Ruiz feels the hull scrape something underwater. He eases the throttle. The flat bottom slides forward rather than digging in. That design choice, once debated in boardrooms, now keeps the boat from stalling. He glances at the beach. He does not see strategy. He sees faces. A soldier falls near the waterline. 2 others drag him behind a metal obstacle. Another group huddles in a shallow depression, catching breath before moving again. The Higgins boat slams into sand. "Go!" Ruiz shouts. The ramp crashes down. Brooks is among the first out. The water is colder than he imagined. It hits his chest and steals the air from his lungs. He stumbles, nearly losing his rifle, then regains balance. Around him, men push forward. Some boats land too far out. Soldiers wade through deep water, equipment dragging them down. Other boats manage to nose closer, thanks to the shallow draft Higgins insisted upon years earlier. Seconds matter. Each time a ramp drops, it creates a brief corridor. A straight path from boat to beach, no climbing, no bottleneck at the sides. Ruiz reverses hard. The prop churns sand. The boat pulls free just as a burst of gunfire slaps against its bow. A small dent appears near the ramp hinge. The metal holds. He turns back toward the larger ships offshore. The trip out feels longer than the trip in. He passes floating debris, a helmet, a life jacket, a shattered plank from another craft. The sea carries everything without judgment. Near him, another Higgins boat limps along with a cracked side panel. Its crew waves off assistance. They will make another run. Farther down the beach, at Utah, the landings are moving faster. Tides and currents have pushed units slightly off target, but resistance is lighter. There too, Higgins boats grind onto sand and drop their ramps in steady rhythm. At Gold, Juno, and Sword, British and Canadian troops surge forward from similar craft. The design is American, but the mission is shared. Back at Omaha, Brooks reaches a strip of shingle beyond the wet sand. He drops flat, chest heaving. He turns and looks back toward the sea. What he sees surprises him. Not just chaos, not just smoke. He sees order inside the storm. Boat after boat approaches in lines. Even under fire, they keep coming. The ramps fall, men move, boats pull away. The pattern repeats. It is not dramatic. It is not heroic in the way movies might show. It is mechanical, relentless. That relentlessness begins to shift the balance. By mid-morning, engineers begin clearing obstacles. Small groups push up the bluffs. Communication improves. The foothold, fragile at first, starts to hold. Every reinforcement that arrives does so because a Higgins boat made the crossing. Ruiz makes his 4th run. His hands ache from gripping the wheel. His ears ring from explosions. But the engine still answers. The ramp still drops. On shore, Brooks inches forward with his unit, using craters and obstacles for cover. He does not think about design specifications. He does not know the debates that once surrounded these boats. He only knows that without that flat bottom and that metal ramp, he would still be trapped in the surf. By noon, the beaches are scarred and crowded. Casualties are real. The cost is heavy. But the invasion has not failed. The simple boats that some once mocked have done their part. They did not win the battle alone, but they made the battle possible. Out on the water, as smoke drifts across the channel, hundreds of Higgins boats turn yet again toward the shore. There are still thousands more to deliver. June 6th, 1944. Early afternoon. The tide has shifted. The sea is no calmer, but something else has changed. From the deck of a transport ship offshore, Lieutenant Commander Robert Hale studies the shoreline through binoculars. Hours ago, the beaches looked uncertain, almost unreachable. Now he sees movement inland, small figures advancing beyond the sand, engineers clearing lanes, signals flags rising through smoke. He lowers the glasses slowly. "Keep them moving," he says. Below him, more Higgins boats circle like patient workhorses awaiting their next load. The first waves carried riflemen. The next carry heavy weapons, radio teams, medics, and supplies. Crates of ammunition thump onto wooden decks. Coils of wire, mortar tubes, stretchers, even small vehicles roll forward. Each boat can carry only so much, 36 men, or a jeep, or several tons of cargo, nothing more, but multiplied by hundreds, it becomes a steady pulse. On one craft, coxswain Earl Watkins squints into the glare. He has been at the wheel since dawn. His arms feel heavy. His throat is raw from shouting over the engine. Behind him sits a medic, Sergeant William Carter, cradling a metal case of bandages and plasma. Carter has already seen too much. He stares at the shoreline, lips moving silently. "Next run," Watkins says, mostly to himself. The boat surges forward. They pass burned-out landing craft half buried in sand. Some ramps hang crooked, frozen mid-drop. Others sit empty, their crews already back at sea. The Higgins boat is not armored like a tank. It cannot fight back against bunkers. It has one purpose: arrive, deliver, leave. As they approach, naval gunfire arcs overhead. The concussion rolls across the water, flattening the surface for a heartbeat before the waves return. Watkins lines up with a gap cleared by engineers. The flat bottom glides over shallows where deeper boats would stall. The ramp drops. Carter steps out, splashing through surf, heading toward a cluster of wounded men gathered behind a sand embankment. Within seconds, he is gone from view. Watkins pulls back again. This rhythm continues hour after hour. By late afternoon, tanks begin to come ashore on specialized landing craft, but even they depend on the initial foothold carved out by infantry delivered in Higgins boats. In Washington, maps are being updated. Colored pins mark progress inland. Reports crackle over radios. The operation remains fragile, but it is alive. Few of those officials think about the factories in Louisiana at that moment. They think about divisions and objectives. Yet in New Orleans, production lines continue. Workers have no pause for celebration. More boats are needed for future landings in the Pacific and Europe. Riveter Mary LeBlanc tightens a bolt along a steel ramp hinge. She has never seen Normandy. She does not know the names of the beaches, but she knows her brother is somewhere overseas. She presses her hand briefly against the cool metal before moving to the next task. That hinge will drop under fire. It will open a path for someone she will never meet. Back in France, as evening approaches, the shoreline looks different. Smoke still hangs in the air, but American flags now mark certain positions. Engineers drag supplies higher up the beach. Bulldozers grind through sand, widening exits. Brooks, the young private from Kansas, sits against a low wall, helmet askew. His uniform is soaked and streaked with sand. He drinks from a canteen that tastes faintly of metal. He looks back at the water one more time. Higgins' boats still move in and out, though the pace has slowed slightly. The worst of the morning is over. The beachhead holds. He watches a boat approach with more reinforcements. The ramp drops. Fresh faces step into surf. He realizes something quietly. Those boats are not just bringing men. They are bringing momentum. Every arrival strengthens the line. Every successful landing makes the next one more likely. The invasion is no longer a gamble. It is becoming a certainty. As darkness creeps in, thousands of soldiers are ashore. Supplies pile up. Vehicles rumble inland. Behind it all is a simple design born in southern marshland. No sweeping curves, no heavy armor. Just wood, steel, and a front ramp. That night, many Higgins boat crews will sleep in snatches, engines still ticking as they cool. Others will keep running missions under moonlight. They will not appear in grand headlines, but without them, there would be no headline at all. June 7th, 1944, just after dawn. The channel is quieter now. The smoke has thinned. The thunder of naval guns is distant, less constant. Waves roll in with a softer rhythm, brushing against sand that no longer feels unreachable. From the bluff above Omaha Beach, Captain Harold Green looks down at the shoreline. What was chaos yesterday is now structure. Supply dumps are organized in rows. Engineers mark cleared lanes with white tape. Vehicles grind up toward the inland roads. Medics move with purpose instead of panic. And along the waterline, the Higgins boats continue their steady work. They nose in, ramps drop, men and equipment move forward, boats reverse, again and again. Green adjusts his field glasses and studies one of the craft as it backs away from shore. It looks small against the vastness of sea and sky, almost fragile. It is hard to believe that such a simple machine has helped carry an army across open water. By the end of D-Day, more than 150,000 Allied troops have landed in Normandy. Tens of thousands came ashore in Higgins boats. Thousands of vehicles and countless tons of supplies followed. The largest amphibious invasion in history did not begin with towering steel giants. It began with flat bottoms sliding onto sand. Back offshore, Seaman Daniel Ruiz sits on an ammunition crate inside his boat, engine idling low. His hands are blistered, his uniform stiff with dried salt. He stares at the shoreline, now crowded with movement. Yesterday morning he had seen only smoke and uncertainty. Now he sees cranes unloading equipment, columns of troops forming inland, signals flags snapping in the breeze. He exhales slowly. His boat bears new scars. Small dents, scrapes along the hull. A gouge near the ramp hinge where shrapnel struck, but it still floats. It still runs. Moore leans beside him, sipping lukewarm coffee from a dented tin cup. Ugly thing, Moore says quietly, nodding toward the bow. Ruiz almost smiles. Yeah, he replies, but it gets the job done. Far away in Louisiana, Andrew Jackson Higgins reads early reports in his office. The newspapers do not yet grasp the scale of what has happened. Details are scarce, but he knows his boats are there. He walks through his factory floor that afternoon. Workers pause to look up as he passes. He does not give a grand speech. He simply nods once. Production will continue. The war is not over. The Higgins boat will serve again in southern France. In the Pacific, island after island will see its ramp drop onto coral and sand. Some boats will be lost. Others will return home scarred but intact. Years later, General Dwight Eisenhower will reflect on the tools that made victory possible. He will mention aircraft and ships and industry. And he will single out Higgins and his landing craft as one of the decisive contributions to the Allied effort. Not because they were glamorous, not because they dominated headlines, but because they solved a problem that stood between strategy and reality. How do you put an army onto a defended shore? You build a simple craft that can carry men straight onto sand. You give it a ramp. You trust it to do its job. Back on Omaha Beach, Brooks walks carefully along the sand where he had stumbled into cold water the day before. The beach feels different now, less like a wall, more like a beginning. He pauses beside an abandoned Higgins boat pushed high by the tide. Its ramp is half buried in sand, the wood is scarred, the metal chipped. He runs his hand along the side. Yesterday, this boat was his only path forward. Without it, he would have been stranded in open water under fire. Now it rests quietly, its work done. He does not know the name of the man who designed it. He does not know about the arguments in Washington or the heat of a Louisiana workshop. He only knows that when the ramp dropped, he stepped into history, and so did thousands of others. When people remember D-Day, they picture the beaches, the cliffs, the courage of the soldiers. But just beyond the frame, on restless gray water, small flat-bottomed boats kept moving. Unimpressive, uncelebrated, essential. They laughed at the Higgins boat once. On June 6th, 1944, no one was laughing.